This case. Sipho, a very good morning to you. Just in simple terms, what will be happening in court this morning?
Well, a very good morning to you and our viewers at home. We're coming outside the North Gauteng High Court for yet another battle between President Cyril Ramaphosa and Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane. This time around, the President has filed an urgent interdict to stay the remedial action of Mkhwebane's report into Bosasa. Of course, Mkhwebane found that the President had misled Parliament when he answered a question into the 500,000 rands a donation into his CR17 campaign by the CEO of Bosasa, and the Public Protector said that some transaction in the entire campaign gives suggestion of what she calls money laundering, and had asked the NPA to possibly investigate the possibility of money laundering. But of course, the President disagrees with the Public Protector here, saying that there was nothing unlawful with his campaign and that everything was done ethically and within the law. And so then the President has come here in the North Gauteng High Court to file an urgent review of the application. But also, besides the review itself, of course, it's an urgent interdict to stay the remedial actions, because we know the remedial actions of the Public Protector are binding, so they cannot be left alone. So it is a two-part application here by the President. But of course, what is interesting, Desiree, we know that the Public Protector, unlike previous urgent interdict, the Public Protector is not opposing this application, and she says that the reason for not opposing this application is not because she is backing down, but rather she wants this matter to be dealt with speedily. But another factor that is come to the fore here is that the President has also petitioned the High Court here to conceal some of the information contained in the Public Protector's report regarding this investigation to Bosasa. The President says this information, the documents has information of third parties that donated in his campaign, and those third parties are entitled to privacy, and says until this review matter has been dealt with entirely, he would ask this court to conceal the identities of his funders. Of course, we know this has divided public opinion, because some have called for the President to come forward and be clean about his entire campaign. But of course, some analysts say, well, the President is entitled to apply to this court asking that these documents be concealed, and that so far he has not done anything wrong. So we expect today that urgent interdict application to be heard, but also the court to hear the petition to conceal some information contained in the Public Protector's Bosasa report.
Sipho, in other matters, while we were waiting for court proceedings to begin, there would be other activity outside the court, especially in this regard where there is conversation about friends of the court approaching in support or opposed to. What is happening outside court as we speak?
Well, today it's fairly quiet outside the court room. We expect the action inside the court to begin at 10 this morning. Remember, in other matters that involve the Public Protector, it was the Public Protector against Minister Pravin Gordhan, and of course we know that EFF in those that is the political party EFF in those court proceedings, they had applied to be an intervening party in court proceedings. So what had attracted those huge crowds outside court was because EFF was involved in those matters. But as we understand it, EFF is not involved in this matter. This is simply between the Public Protector and the President, as the of course, the President is trying to review and set aside that damaging the report by Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane. Of course, the President keeps saying that he has not done anything wrong or anything illegal. But interestingly, at the very same time, the President is applying to this court to conceal certain information. We've had email leaks into this CR campaign that have reached the media, suggesting that the President has actually had some form of knowledge in terms of who the funders, and was actually more active than the President has said. We know that the President has suggested that he was not involved in raising the funds, and that it was the campaign managers and he was simply a figurehead of the CR17 campaign. But the email leaks suggest that perhaps he might have known a little bit more than he is letting on. But another matter that has come up, the president seems to suggest that the public protector may have obtained some information while investigating this Bosasa matter illegally, but the Office of the Public Protector has said that they have not done anything outside the combat of the law. So certainly a lot of legal battles that we expect here in court, but what's important is that the public protector is not opposing the urgent interdict to stay remedial action, but she is opposing the overall review of the report.
Have you seen any noteworthy arrivals yet?
No noteworthy arrivals yet, but we do know that the president has lined up top legal minds, including Advocate Ngugai Tobi, who we often see representing the EFF, but this time around it seems they've brought him in to assist the president. So certainly the president is not taking this lightly. He is appointed very top legal minds to assist him in this battle to clear his name. Also interestingly, on this subject of the president, of course, I had the opportunity yesterday to speak to the Minister of International Relations, that is Minister Naledi Pandor, and I had asked that has the president's credibility been dented by this battle with the public protector internationally? And Minister Pandor said that international communities respect and have confidence in the South African judicial system, and they expect that the court system will offer clarity in this matter as to whether the president has done anything wrong with his CR17 campaign. So certainly the president seems to have the support of government, and the ANC, of course, released a statement in a few days ago stating that it supports the president. The president has not done anything wrong in this matter or anything illegal, and said that this seems to be a well orchestrated campaign to discredit the president. And the ANC itself admitted that it did not have a policy that determines how internal presidential campaign should be run. But of course, we know that the public protector, in her investigation, she found that the president deliberately misled Parliament and had asked the NPA to investigate the possibility of money laundering, because we know that this campaign has attracted millions of rands, amounting to nearly R1 billion, of course, for this CR17 campaign, which has raised eyebrows. Media leaks suggest a number of NEC members and some ministers were part of this campaign and were paid millions of rands to be part of this. But so far, nothing illegal, but certainly the president is in trouble because of his initial response in Parliament when he was asked about this donation.
Just so our viewers can prepare their popcorn and cups of tea, perhaps, are we going to be inside court? All right, it looks like our connection there with Sipho is cut off. Let's Blaine.
Yeah, popcorn and cups of tea indeed. Let's get a perspective now. Political analyst Professor Dirk Coetzee joins us now via Skype. Professor, always a pleasure talking to you. Let's get more on a story that has really dominated the news cycle over the weekend and guaranteed for the rest of the week. We've got confidential banking details, campaign donors. This story, I guess, is really exposing some of the aspects of democracy which is generally not in the public domain, you would agree?
And I think what we are seeing is that there are some efforts in order to open it up more. We've seen the adoption of the funding of public political parties, and especially for them to disclose their private donations. The PAIA Act is also being amended at the moment for exactly the same purpose. But I'm not always sure if what we are seeing in respect of President Ramaphosa and the presidential campaign in the ANC will actually be included in this new legislation. So it is definitely something that's very important and that must receive a lot of public attention in order to establish a procedure that is acceptable to all parties, because I think we have to remind ourselves that this situation to some extent applied also to Mmusi Maimane not long ago, when there were also questions about the funding of his campaign.
Yeah. You know, I was reading a statement, and the ANC did say that to date they had not had a policy that actually deals with the internal campaign mechanisms and fundraising. But I guess, if anything, the story throws a spotlight on the role that money plays in campaigning in South Africa.
That is, again, indeed so. And I think the amount of money, many people are starting to ask questions, where was this money spent? For what purposes was this money spent? Because this is now hundreds of millions. This is not a few million here and there, but it is huge amounts of money. And this is only one of the participants. At some stage, there were almost 5 or so more presidential candidates in the pipeline, plus other candidates. Ace Magashule was a very important candidate in this election. Didi Mabuza was a very important candidate in this election, and others. And the question is, what happened with the money that they have received? We have absolutely no information about that. So I think it is indeed an opportunity to start with the public debate, which is not focused on President Ramaphosa only, but on rather internal democratic processes within political parties.
Prof, in a statement, the presidency said with regards to the funding of the CR17 campaign that neither the president nor the campaign has done anything wrong ethically or legally, saying it's a common and accepted practice in South Africa and across the world for parties and candidates to raise funding from donors for campaigns. But with regards to political and public interest, does it go beyond legality and ethics? How do you think this plays out in the court of public opinion?
Well, I think where there's more or less consensus about is about the legality of this. The ethical question, I think, is not yet being answered. And I think this is the main point of debate. Is, for example, when President Ramaphosa said that he didn't know about who his donors are or were at that stage, that is actually now being questioned. But over and above that, the way in which money has been used, again, it's not about the legality of it, but how they have been acquired, how they have been used, and to what extent and who used them. These are important questions, I think, that must be answered. Plus then also the fact that it creates this impression that election campaigns is all about money. It is about which candidate can be able to gather or to collect or to receive the most donations. And that person will most possibly become the most successful one. And I think that is dangerous for politics in general in South Africa. If it goes towards the American approach, though in America what is interesting is the donations, even for individual candidates, are limited. There are certain thresholds on how much money can be donated by a specific person or institution or business. And I think that is the type of regulations or guidelines that we as South Africans must start to think about, not only in terms of parties but also individuals. Because there's another thing in the pipeline, and that is the application that in future it might be possible for individual candidates to participate in national elections. And then this will become, again, another important factor.
Prof, just very quickly, when the head of state and the head of a Chapter 9 institutions butt heads, what's the result? How does it change the political landscape of this country?
Well, we've seen it starting with President Zuma, where he challenged also the reports of the Public Protector then, Thuli Madonsela. Now we see something, but it is in a sense the reverse of that. In the case of the President Zuma, the Public Protector to a large extent was, inverted commas, protected by the courts. In this case, now the Public Protector is actually criticized and even challenged by the courts. And I think that creates more of a constitutional question about Chapter 9 institutions like the Public Protector. We've seen it in the past with the IEC also, where the courts also criticized the IEC about the Clockway election and other matters also. That is, in a sense, good. If we see that the separation of powers and the role of the judiciary it does play its role, and that there is not a bias towards the one or the other. For example, towards the president, in the case of President Zuma, and in this case against a Chapter 9 institution. And that is in essence the ideal situation, the role that the three arms of government of the state must play.
Yeah. Prof, thank you very much indeed. We've run out of time, but we get your point and your perspective. We always appreciate it. Political analyst Professor Dirk Coetzee, thank you very much indeed.